Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses, and this is Goethe the Mystic by Walter J. Albersheim, FRC. An article taken from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 30, Number 3, March 1952. Goethe the Mystic by Walter J. Albersheim, FRC. In 1949, the world celebrated the 200th birth anniversary of a soul personality who has won acclaim as one of the immortal masters of the written word, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. The test of time now ranks him with Homer, Sophocles, and Shakespeare. In countless essays and speeches, he has been praised as a lyric poet, a dramatist, novelist, scientist, and statesman, but few have discerned in him the master mystic. The obvious philosophical and social significance of Goethe's renowned dramatic poem Faust has been widely discussed, but its mystical content has remained almost entirely unrecognized. One might well ask, how could Goethe be an immortal, a master in so many fields, without benefit of mystical illumination? Great is only he whose work, transcending mere beauty, ennobles us by a reflection of the light which he received. It behooves us as students of mysticism to recognize the mastership of a man who was endowed from birth with spiritual receptivity, knew our order and broadcast its truths, even though veiled in poetical form. His outward affiliation with mystical organizations may be investigated by biographers and historians, but his progress on the spiritual path needs no such studies. It shines forth from his life's work. A great part of that work is familiar to all educated people who speak the German language. Much of it has been translated into English, although not even the best translation renders the melodious beauty of a perfect poem which, bypassing our analytical mind, speaks directly to the soul. But whether we read the originals or the translations, we must learn what to look for in order to find his mystical self-confessions. Like all writings of this nature, they elude the casual reader who is not himself a seeker. Inborn tendencies leading the young poet toward the path are mentioned in his autobiographical work called Fiction and Truth from My Life. The son of well-to-do upper-class bourgeois parents, he was a tall, vivacious, good-looking lad with a precocious gift for languages and for rhyming. He expressed much zest for life and possessed insatiable curiosity. Several extrasensory experiences are recorded. The most striking one occurred in his student days while he was riding away dejectedly after a final parting from his sweetheart, Friederike. Suddenly he saw himself, not with the eyes of the body but of the spirit, returning on horseback, clad in a strange grey, gold-embroidered suit. Fate or accident verified this vision in full detail some 8 years later. Another sign of linkage to a superpersonal intelligence were his sudden flashes of artistic intuition. He tells about poems written at night in a semi-conscious daze and found complete and perfect in the morning, those scribbled diagonally across a scrap of paper. He even began a poem about the wandering Jew by stating that a midnight inspiration compelled him to jump out of bed like a madman. With wealth, talent, temperament, and good looks favoring him, it was only natural that he savored to the full the pleasures of student life, and that he became involved in many flirtations and amorous attachments. But soon he felt the need to cleanse himself from this social whirl by long, solitary nocturnal walks. In Wanderer's Night Song, he exclaims that he's bewildered and tired of joys and sorrows alike, and he prays for sweet peace. In Even Song, he feels an intimation of peace profound in the sunset on solitary mountaintops. Thus, physical wandering leads him to the path, glimpses of divinity. Nature worship brings him moments of exaltation when the clouds seem to enfold him, so that, like Ganymede, the cupbearer of the gods, he feels himself carried up as on eagle wings to the bosom of a heavenly Father. But such raptures do not last and give way to deep despondency, give way to the dark night of despair which comes to every mystic and becomes recognized. In the Harper's song, he cried out against the divine powers that permit man to sin and then mete out punishment for a guilt he was too weak to avoid. Again, as Prometheus, he rebels against the gods who demand worship from men, whom they doom to misfortune and death. He refuses to bow to fate and resolves manfully to shape his own destiny. Later, he realizes that the seeming injustices of one lifetime may be resolved in a new life. In his Song of the Spirits Over the Waters, he likens earthly life unto water that rains down from heaven, flows along on earth for a while, and re-evaporates to heaven. Undiminished, though invisible and impalpable, to start a new cycle of existence. Having regained confidence in life and mankind, he calls upon man to be noble, helpful, and kind, and to exemplify in himself the qualities which he formerly ascribed to imagined divinities. At about this period of life, at the age of 35, so significant to mystics, he seems to have found contact with the Rosicrucian order. In a fragmentary epic entitled The Mysteries, he tells of a pilgrim impelled toward his travels from on high. Lost at night in a mountain wilderness, he finds shelter in a monastery. The cloister door is adorned with a cross and roses. The legendary tale breaks off abruptly. Why was it not completed? Did the poet himself remain at the outer gate of the order without knowledge of its inner nature, or did he find that true mysteries can only be intimated to the multitude by fragmentary hints? The second reason seems the more likely one, because in the introduction to The Mysteries, Goethe warns us that the path might seem to lose itself in the bushes, intentionally, and that none could puzzle out its meaning merely by mental effort. Clearly, he implied that each one of us must find his own experience to progress. While association with a mystical order undoubtedly helped Goethe in his life's quest, it offered no shortcut to salvation for him, no more than for other students. He kept on searching and studying the wisdom of all cultures and times, especially those of the Orient. He wrote ballads about Hindu legends and an entire book of verses named West Eastern Divan in the style of the Persian mystical poet Hafiz, Freedom from Doubts. At long last, 30 years after writing The Mysteries, Goethe could proclaim that he had attained the golden dawn of illumination. This confession is hidden away among the orientalizing Divan series. Like The Mysteries, it is prefaced by a warning and addressed to the wise only, not to the jeering crowd. The flame of a candle shining through a night of earthly love beckons him on to greater light and greater love. He praises the living soul that like a moth is drawn to and finally consumed by this flaming greater light so that it loses its mortal identity. The poem closes on the triumphant note, "Until thou hast attained this, to become, evolve by dying. Thou art but a dull guest on a dark earth." The injunction, die and become, is often quoted but rarely understood. I myself, although loving Goethe since boyhood, had to read the verses many times before their meaning dawned on me. Fortunately, the poem is written not only for those who, like the poet, have experienced flaming death, they no longer need its challenge, but to all of us who long for this experience, knowingly or unknowingly. Forever after the time of this poem, one senses that Goethe is free from doubts and worries. He scoffs at fear about the transitory nature of earthly life, exclaiming, "We are here to eternalize ourselves." Yet he does not retire into an ivory tower, but stresses our duty to put our shoulder to the wheel in behalf of the common good. Let man bestir himself while it is day. The night will come when work no more he may. His manifold activities included those of minister of state, theater director, court poet, scientist, and dramatist. He was the Olympian whose presence was sought by visitors from all over the earth. Unavoidably, the poetic works of a man so sure of himself lack the passionate appeal of those written when he was a struggling and erring youth. We cannot feel kinship with one too high above us. Goethe no longer wrote romantic poetry, becoming instead the protector of such young romanticists as Lord Byron and Victor Hugo. However, some of his last verses were pure gems of wisdom condensed into proverb form. Thus, toward the end of his long life, he could declare, throughout the infinitely manifold and ever-changing cosmic cycles, joy of life streams forth from all created things, from the might as from the giant sun, and all this struggle for existence is rest eternal in the Lord. Verily, one who has attained such serenity is a master mystic. The poetry of his old age may no longer appeal to the uninitiated, but his life itself is a work of art, a tale of seeking and finding, of the good fight unto victory. May it spur us on to equal effort and equal reward. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.